Hey, what's up, everybody? Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of YFP Planning's fee-only certified financial planners. Before we jump into today's question, I want to give a shout out to YFP Planning's incredible team that makes this segment possible. YFP Planning offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to optimize your investing plan, pay off student loans, or simply build a solid financial plan, YFP Planning will help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from Martika in Owensboro, Kentucky.
Hi, this is Martika from Owensboro, Kentucky. I had a quick question. My fiancé and I are, of course, planning to get married soon. I am a pharmacist, making an average pharmacist salary, and I'm about 4 years away from repaying all of my student loans. My fiancé is a medical resident. He's about halfway through his 4-year residency, and obviously has some student loan debt as well. He is wanting to pursue public service loan forgiveness and is in the repay program. As we get our financials in order before we get married, what are some things we need to consider, especially about his public service loan forgiveness, whether he should change payment options, as right now his current plan will consider mine in his loan repayment, and other things we should consider, especially when it comes to tax planning for marriage. Thank you.
Thank you, Martika, for submitting your question to be featured on this week's Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
This is probably the number one reason a lot of people, come to us, pharmacists come to us and are seeking help, is probably because of the kind of the transition in life, whether it's a change in marital status or, increase in income because of two incomes versus one. So I would say, Tim, a lot of the prospective clients that book meetings to talk with myself or you or now Justin Woods, it's really because of these things. And I look at this as, that's typically the catalyst, but there's, I think, a lot of value, especially, early in a relationship, to kind of sit down and kind of flesh all these things out. And I even think of it just from the context of just looking at your balance sheet. So, for a lot of our clients, the first thing that we do is, after they become clients, they get a welcome email from one of our certified financial planners, and the first order of business is kind of get organized. And that really means, linking your accounts to a client portal. Mm-hmm. So your check-in, your savings, your credit cards, your student loans, your investment accounts, maybe a house, maybe the mortgage attached to the house. And, for a lot of us, just as a single individual, it could be the first time you see all of your dollars in one spot, right? Because we bank over here, we have debt over here, we have investments over here. But particularly for partners, Tim, like, a lot of us, especially with the student loan conversation, that might come up during, dating and when you get engaged. But I think, having that all in one spot and being able to kind of look at a dynamic balance sheet of where, a couple stands is really, really valuable. And,
yes.
And I think from there, what we often talk about is, from the get organized meeting is the script of your plan. It's really have a in-depth conversation of your goals and like, where the heck do we want to take this thing? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really healthy for any relationship, but particularly in the beginning when you're trying to get on the same page, from a balance sheet, but then also from a goals perspective. And, to the point with the question, like, yeah, those things are technical in terms of like student loans and repayment plans. There's work to be done there, and tax plan, and absolutely. But I think it could be as basic as like, what's the joint savings plan? What do we need in an emergency fund? If we have travel ambitions, what does that look like? I think those pieces are important. The technical side of, am I in the right repayment plan? How am I supposed to file my taxes? What changes year to year? What happens when we introduce little ones, if that's in the plan? How do goals change from there? I think, and again, I'm biased, Tim, obviously, being a financial planner myself, but it's crucially important. And we know, what the stats are in terms of like, some, with marriage and divorce, and a lot of those can be, really the crux of that could be financially based. So I'm always a big proponent of, having an objective third party to look at
Yes.
your balance sheet, look at your goals and say, hey, if I'm you, these are the things that I would really consider. A lot of that's going to be technically based, but a lot of that's just going to be like trying to execute to the goals that the two of you have, outlined for yourself and really holding you accountable to that. So, it's one of those things. It's, what's the quote, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today.
Mm-hmm.
That quote is burned into my brain because I think it's, a lot of people, it's kind of the paralysis by analysis, or maybe there's an embarrassment with regard to their finances, or, especially when you overlay couples and relationships. But, I just think it's important to get on the same page and start executing to a plan. It's just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work at it. You have to, allocate time, dollars potentially to make sure that you're executing to a plan that really makes sense for the two of you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tim. Obviously, we're biased to the value of an objective third party in the planning process, but so important. I think, as you mentioned, many folks come to us with multiple competing priorities. This is a great example. Working through a lot of different things, questions about the debt. Naturally, other things will come into the future, tax planning, and that's this Friday. Jess and I are meeting with you, right, to talk about our financial plan, and I think just the value of having some insights and really asking good questions and hopefully stimulating good conversation. This, Tim, also reminds me too of, your comment about discussions couples should have, even as there's questions here around like, PSLF and the repay program and strategy there, like taking a step back of just the conversation around debt as a couple. Like how do we feel about, debt, and are we on the same page? And if we look at different types of debt, does that change the scenario? And then from there, getting more tactical with the actual strategy related to student loans, but then also how that fits in the rest of the financial plan. So
yeah, I think just to cut you off real quick, Tim, I think sometimes, that second meeting that we have, which is about goals, it can be kind of the record scratch, because it's, one partner, I'll give you an example that's come to mind. Like one partner was saying like, hey, like it's really important for me to like leave a legacy and leave money for my kids in the future. And the other spouse is looking at them like, and they've been married for a long time, where it's like, like what? Like, no, like we, I want to, you can't kind of take it with you type of thing. And there's just this misalignment. And I think just talking those things out loud is really, really important. And it could be something with travel. It could be something with kids, or, how you introduce money to kids in the future. So it's really important, I think, to kind of, get those conversations out in the open and work through them.
Mm-hmm. And we'll link in the show notes, Tim, way back when, I had to go dig this up here, March 2016, I wrote a blog post, 10 financial discussions every couple should have. Perhaps a good starting point, Martika, others that are listening, again, objective third party. When you initiate these conversations, it wasn't you, it was Tim in the blog, right, that asked the questions and opening up some good conversation. Again, Martika, whether it's for you and your fiance, others that are listening, we'd love to have an opportunity to talk with you to see if the financial planning services offered by the team at YFP Planning are a good fit. You can book a free discovery call by visiting yfpplanning.com. Thanks again for listening to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast. If we feature your question on the show, we'll send you a super comfy YFP t-shirt. You can submit your question by sending an email to info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com, or you can record your question by visiting yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your name on the show, you can send or record your question anonymously. As we conclude this week's Ask a YFP CFP episode, an important reminder that the content in this podcast is provided to you for your informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. Information in the podcast and corresponding materials should not be construed as a solicitation or offer to buy or sell any investment or related financial products. We urge listeners to consult with a financial advisor with respect to any investment. Furthermore, the information contained in our archived newsletters, blog posts, and podcasts is not updated and may not be accurate at the time you listen to it on this show. Opinions and analyses expressed herein are solely those of Your Financial Pharmacist, unless otherwise noted, and constitute judgments as of the dates published. Such information may contain forward-looking statements which are not intended to be guarantees of future events. Actual results could differ materially from those anticipated in the forward-looking statements. For more information, please visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thank you for your support of the podcast and have a great rest of your week.